The aliens' mocking laughter still echoed in Commander Roy Boyd's ears. Murloc, the arrogant Wagner ace pilot, had sneered at humanity's primitive toys, masquerading as spacecraft. But now the smug bastard was humanity's only hope. Boyd strode into the brig where Murloc sat restrained, still smirking. Earth's first contact with the technologically superior Wagner had gone sideways when Murloc's ship malfunctioned and crashed. His retrieval should have been a diplomatic coup. Instead, tensions were at a breaking point after Murloc's scathing insults. And now this. A crisis aboard a distant space station, a hull breach, imminent decompression. No time to scramble another ship or crew. Boyd had a wild idea. This condescending ET was going to put his money where his mouth was. Congratulations, Space Ace. You're going to fly a pathetic human ship on a rescue mission. And if you don't, if that station crew dies, your stay on our primitive little dirtball is going to get a lot less pleasant. Murloc's eyes widened. He strained against his cuffs. You cannot be serious. I will not sully myself piloting your tin can. You don't have a choice, Chuckles. Get suited up. Minutes later, Boyd watched Murloc board the sleek Raven X-1, an experimental ship packing tech the Wagner didn't even know humans possessed. As the canopy sealed and pre-flight checks commenced, Boyd saw Murloc's demeanor shift. Uncertainty, confusion, perhaps a glimmer of fear. The mighty alien's hands hovered over the console, not engaging a single dial or display. His head swiveled as if lost in a foreign land. Maybe blowing smoke about human inferiority had just blown up in Murloc's face. And if he couldn't figure out those controls fast, it wouldn't be just his pride that went up in smoke. Murloc slid into the pilot's seat, eyes hardened. His eyes flicked over the bewildering array of controls, switches, levers, buttons, all haphazardly placed like a child's puzzle. Where was the logic, the order? The ship jolted forward, pinning Murloc to his seat. The viewport blurred as stars streaked by. Alarms shrieked, lights flashed angry red. "Murloc, what did you do?" Boyd shouted. "I do not know." Murloc's hands flew over the controls, frantic, clumsy. "This makes no sense." "Listen to me," Boyd said, his voice level. "That lever controls the propulsion system. I need you to engage the inertial dampeners, the silver dial, upper right." A chime sounded. A melodic female voice filled the cockpit. "Warning! Uncharted asteroid field detected. Collision imminent." "Recommend alternate route," the voice said. A route blinked on the display, arcing precariously close to a seething ball of gas. "The gas giant?" Murloc exclaimed. "Impossible! We will be torn apart." "Negative," the voice replied. "This vessel is equipped with reinforced shielding and precision maneuvering thrusters. Probability of safe passage, 87.6%. There was no choice. Alarms blared. Sweat beaded Murloc's brow as he wrestled the bucking craft. Shielding flared blinding white as radiation lashed against it. They had made it. The human ship had held shielding impenetrable, responding crisply to his every command. Astra's path, however mad, had been true. Murloc sagged back, stunned. His throat was raw, heart still racing. His people, with all their vaunted technology, would never have attempted such a feat. Yet this ship, Astra, they made the impossible real. Murloc looked ahead to the wounded station, drive hardening. It all came down to this. Could he interface this ship with the alien airlock, match spin and speed in a delicate ballet of machinery and physics? Lives hung in the balance. He was their only hope. This human ship, improbable and surprising, was their only hope. Murloc's fingers danced over the controls, guiding the Raven X-1 towards the damaged space station. His heart raced as he contemplated the docking procedure ahead. The alien structure loomed larger in the viewport, its hull pockmarked with scorch marks and debris. "Murloc, I'm patching in our chief engineer," Commander Boyd's voice crackled through the comm. "She'll assist with the docking." A new voice, crisp and confident, filled the cockpit. "This is Lyra Briggs. I understand we have a tricky situation on our hands." Murloc pressed it, and a flood of data scrolled across the nearest screen. He blinked, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information. Now, Lyra continued, we'll use our modular airlock system to match their configuration. Astra will guide you through the calibration process. The AI's soothing voice took over. Initiating airlock reconfiguration. Please adjust the following parameters. Murlock's brow furrowed as he attempted to follow Astra's instructions. His fingers fumbled over unfamiliar controls, frustration mounting with each misstep. Patience, Astra intoned. Let's try again. First, rotate the green dial 45 degrees clockwise. Step by step, with Astra's calm guidance, Murlock navigated the complex calibration. The modular airlock whirred and clicked, reshaping itself to match the alien station's specifications. Murlock took a deep breath, easing the ship forward. The Raven's thrusters responded with surprising precision, allowing him to maneuver delicately in the confined space near the station. With a gentle thud, the airlocks connected. Well done, Lyra's voice returned. Now let's see what we're dealing with inside. A gruff human approached, his face etched with worry lines. Marcus Hawkins, chief engineer. We've got a bigger problem than we thought. Main power cores shot to hell. Trust me, Lyra assured him. Astra has run the calculations. It'll work. Under Lyra's guidance, Murlock carefully connected power conduits between the ship and station. He marveled at the elegant safeguards built into the human systems, allowing for seamless integration. Commander Boyd's voice cut through the moment of triumph. We've got a new wrinkle. Nearest replacement power core is days away. Murlock, we need you to retrieve it. Murlock's antennae drooped. A solo mission? In this strange human vessel? Murlock settled into the Raven's cockpit, his fingers hovering over the controls with newfound reverence. The mission ahead loomed large in his mind. A solo journey to retrieve a replacement power core from a distant outpost. Astra, plot our course to the nearest core depot, he commanded, his voice steady despite the tension coiling in his chest. Calculating optimal route, Astra replied. Be advised, our path takes us beyond the outer asteroid belt. Multiple hazards detected. A holographic display materialized before Murlock, showcasing a treacherous expanse of space. Pulsing red markers indicated danger zones, radiation hotspots, debris fields, and gravitational anomalies. Cosmic radiation levels are elevated, Astra continued, activating enhanced shielding protocols. Hours passed in tense silence. Murlock's eyes darted between readouts, constantly scanning for threats. A proximity alert suddenly blared, startling him from his focus. Warning, Astra announced. Massive ion storm detected on long-range sensors. Impact imminent in 17 minutes. Options, Astra? 2 viable routes identified, the AI responded. Option 1, a longer path skirting the storm's outer boundary. Estimated travel time, increase, 6 hours. Option 2, direct route through the storm's core. Extreme risk, but potential time savings of up to 8 hours. Murlock's grip tightened on the controls. The seconds ticked by, each moment of indecision costing precious time. He thought of the Raven's astonishing performance so far, of Astra's lightning-fast computations. Plot the direct course, he ordered, his voice raw. We're going through. The ship banked hard, aligning itself with the oncoming maelstrom. Murlock activated every shielding system at his disposal, the Raven's hull humming with defensive energy. Entering ion storm in 3, 2, 1. The viewport erupted in a dazzling light show as they plunged into chaos. Murlock's body slammed against his harness as turbulence rocked the ship. Alarms blared from every console. Hull integrity at 89% and falling, Astra reported, its voice unnaturally calm amid the pandemonium. Rerouting power to compensate for shield fluctuations. Evasive maneuvers, he shouted, yanking on the controls. Nothing happened. Suddenly, the ship lurched. Maneuvering thrusters fired in a precise sequence, nudging their trajectory just enough. The debris screamed past, missing them by mere meters. For what felt like an eternity, they battled through the storm's fury. Systems failed and rerouted, shields flickered and held. When they finally burst free of the ionic tempest, Murlock slumped in his seat, exhausted and exhilarated. "Astra," he said softly, "set course for the nearest human outpost. We need to recharge and resupply before continuing to the core depot." As the ship cruised onward, Murloc found his thoughts drifting back to Earth. He dismissed their technology, their capabilities. Now, surrounded by evidence of human ingenuity, he felt something entirely new stirring within him. Respect. The Raven's engines pulsed as Murloc guided it towards the outpost, a squat structure perched on the edge of an asteroid. His antennae twitched with anticipation as he initiated landing procedures. As the airlock cycled, Murloc straightened his uniform, acutely aware of his unconventional arrival. The inner doors hissed open, revealing a familiar silhouette, another Wagner. "Narlock," Murloc acknowledged, forcing neutrality into his voice. "I've come to—" Murloc bristled. "The situation is more complex than you realize. These humans, these primitives," Narlock scoffed, "have somehow convinced you to play errand boy? I expected better from the great Murloc." Narlock's laughter echoed through the docking bay. "Surely you jest. What could these fumbling apes possibly teach us?" "How?" Murloc asked, sensing a trap. Narlock's mandibles clicked in what passed for a Wagner smile. "The gauntlet. Navigate it successfully, and you'll have your power core. And my respect." "Astra," he subvocalized through his neural link. "Can we do this?" Minutes later, the Raven hovered at the gauntlet's entrance. A field of asteroids, minefields, and holographic obstacles stretched before them. Murloc's hands settled on the controls. "Let's show them what we can do." The Raven surged forward. Murloc's world narrowed to readouts and reflexes as they plunged into chaos. They corkscrewed through gaps barely wider than the ship, Astra's predictive algorithms guiding their path. "Warning," Astra intoned. "Debris field ahead. Standard evasive maneuvers insufficient." "Insane but viable," Astra confirmed, anticipating his thought. "Executing now." The Raven's engines cut out. For a heart-stopping moment, they drifted, carried only by momentum. Then, with surgical precision, maneuvering thrusters fired in a staccato rhythm. The ship pirouetted through the debris, missing jagged metal by millimeters. Main power surged back online as they cleared the field. Murloc let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Final approach," Astra announced. "Gauntlet completion in 3, 2, 1. They burst past the finish line, alarms blaring their success. Murloc brought the ship to a stop, his hands trembling slightly on the controls. Narloc's voice crackled over the comm, heavy with disbelief. I've never seen anything like that. Murloc, I owe you an apology, and a power core." As they docked once more with the outpost, Murloc felt a surge of pride, not just in his own abilities, but in the remarkable human technology that had made it all possible. He watched as Narloc's crew began loading the precious cargo, knowing that this was only the beginning of a profound shift in understanding between their two species. Murloc's antennae twitched as he guided the Raven away from Narloc's outpost, the newly acquired power core securely stowed in the cargo hold. His mind raced with the implications of what he'd just accomplished, both in navigating the treacherous gauntlet and in shifting Narloc's perceptions of human technology. "Set course for the station," he commanded, settling into the pilot's seat. "Maximum safe speed." The ship hummed to life, accelerating smoothly into the void. Murloc allowed himself a moment of satisfaction, picturing the relief on the faces of the station's crew when he returned with their lifeline. Barely an hour into their journey, a soft chime interrupted Murloc's thoughts. "Alert," Astra announced, detecting faint distress signal. "Origin, Cadron Moon, human mining colony." Murloc frowned. "Ignore it. We have a critical mission to complete." "Addendum," Astra interrupted. "Brief detour to Cadron, viable without significant mission delay. Revised arrival estimate to station, 7 hours, 18 minutes. He thought of the human crew who'd trusted him with this task, of their unwavering belief in helping others. He remembered the awe he'd felt witnessing the Raven's capabilities. "Damn it," Murloc growled. "Fine, plot the course to Cadron." The Raven banked sharply, engines flaring as they pushed towards the besieged colony. As they neared the moon's turbulent atmosphere, the extent of the carnage became clear. Pirates detected, Astra reported, analyzing attack patterns and weaponry. Initiating unconventional countermeasures, Astra replied, deploying electromagnetic camouflage, releasing false warp signature. Murlock's mandibles clicked in appreciation. Clever. Now what? Recommend immediate deployment of concussive charges, Astra advised. Target pirate ground forces for maximum disorientation. Murlock's fingers danced across the weapons console. Firing sequence initiated. Breaching pirate network security, Astra declared, assuming control of colony defense systems. Before Murlock could question this bold move, the colony's railgun turrets swiveled with lethal precision. They opened fire on the scattered pirate forces, catching them in a devastating crossfire between automated defenses and the Raven's strafing runs. Murlock brought the Raven to a hover above the colony's central plaza. He watched as the remaining pirates threw down their weapons, corralled by newly liberated colonists wielding improvised arms. A stocky human male approached the ship, waving his arms to attract attention. Murlock hesitated, then engaged the external speakers. The human's face broke into a weary smile. Jason Ward, Colonial Administrator. Words can't express our gratitude, Murlock. You saved us all. Murlock's initial impulse was refusal. They'd already deviated from their mission. And yet... Affirmative, the AI replied instantly. Adjustments to flight plan and life support are well within operational parameters. Dr. Yelena Kovac, she introduced herself briskly, extending a hand. You must be Murlock. Quite a surprise to see a Wagner piloting a human vessel. As the last patient was stabilized, Yelena approached Murlock. Her face was grim. Most will recover fully, but there's a complication. The young woman, Rhea, she needs specialized surgery we can't perform here. The journey to New Avalon pushed the Raven to its limits. Murlock felt the vibrations through the hull as the engines strained. When they finally emerged from their final warp jump, the sight before him stole his breath. New Avalon was a sprawling marvel of engineering. Massive habitat rings spun lazily around a central hub, easily twice the size of any space station Murlock had ever encountered. Holographic displays flickered between the structures, a constant dance of information and light. Murlock's mandibles clicked in astonishment. This level of investment, it's unheard of in Wagner space. They rushed Rhea through pristine corridors, surrounded by technology that defied Murlock's understanding. Suddenly, alarms blared. A voice rang out. Hull breach detected in Sector 7. Murlock watched in awe as bulkheads slammed shut, contained the breach. Repair drones swarmed to the damaged area, patching the hull with startling speed. A doctor, relief evident on his face, clasped Murlock's shoulder. Your AI just saved countless lives. Thank you. When Rhea finally emerged from her final procedure, pale but alive, Murlock felt a surge of emotion he couldn't name. Yelena approached him, genuine warmth in her eyes. You've given this young woman a future, she said softly. I hope you understand what a precious gift that is. The Raven glided smoothly into the docking bay of the damaged space station, its hull gleaming under the harsh, artificial lights. Murlock guided the ship with practiced ease, his fingers dancing across the control panel. As the airlock hissed open, a burly human with grease-stained coveralls strode forward. Marcus Hawkins, he introduced himself, extending a calloused hand. Chief Engineer, you've got our new core? Murlock nodded, gesturing towards the ship's cargo hold. Secured and ready for transfer. I understand your mission took some unexpected turns, Boyd began, her piercing gaze fixed on Murlock. For the next hour, Murlock recounted the events of his journey. The pirate attack on Cadron, the injured colonists, the marvels of New Avalon. With each revelation, Boyd's expression shifted from surprise to grudging respect. Murlock's antennae twitched. Perhaps we are more alike than either of our species realized. Murmurs of discontent rippled through the crowd. Jirga, Murlock's former instructor, leapt to his feet. This is madness, he snarled. Murloc has been corrupted by alien influence. His actions are a betrayal of our sacred superiority. The hall erupted into chaos, Wagner shouting and gesticulating wildly. On the fringes, Larama, a pioneering xenobiologist, watched with growing excitement. She turned to her colleagues, mandibles clicking rapidly. Back on the space station, Murloc's debriefing was interrupted by an urgent communication. Commander Boyd's face grew grim as she listened, then turned to Murloc. "There's more," Boyd cut him off. "They've located a downed Wagner scout ship. If we don't recover it soon, it'll be lost to the storms." Murloc froze, his mind racing. The thought of abandoning Wagner technology to the humans was unthinkable, and yet the idea of undertaking another perilous mission to aid them? "I'll need a crew," Murloc said finally. As Murloc made his way back to the Raven, he caught sight of his reflection in a polished bulkhead. The Wagner that stared back at him was changed, no longer the rigid, protocol-bound pilot who had first embarked on this mission. The ship's airlock opened, revealing a lithe human woman with a mane of curly red hair. "Lyra Briggs," she introduced herself, grinning. "I hear we're in for one hell of a ride." The Raven's engines flared to life, propelling them towards the turbulent world of Sirion. As they left the station behind, Murloc reflected on the strange turns his journey had taken. He was venturing into the unknown once more, not just in terms of their destination, but in his own evolving worldview. The Raven plunged into Sirion's turbulent atmosphere, buffeted by violent winds and crackling energy discharges. Murloc's fingers danced across the controls, compensating for each sudden jolt and shift. "Astra, status report," he barked as the ship lurched. Lyra Briggs clung to her station, red curls whipping around her face. "We need to modulate the shield harmonics," she shouted over the din. "Otherwise, we'll be torn apart before we even reach the crash site." "There," Lyra exclaimed. "That should buy us some time." Jason Ward's voice crackled over the comms. "I've got a visual on the Wagner scout. It's caught in what looks like an ionic vortex about 2 kilometers ahead." The scout ship came into view, a battered hull being slowly shredded by swirling energy currents. Murloc's antenna twitched with dismay at the sight of his people's technology so close to destruction. "We can't get any closer without risking both ships," Murloc growled in frustration. Murloc hesitated. "Our systems are already strained. The additional power draw could—" "It's our only shot," Lyra interrupted. "Trust me." With a reluctant nod, Murloc engaged the experimental tractor beam projectors. A shimmering field of energy lanced out, enveloping the battered Wagner vessel. For a moment, it seemed to work. Then alarms blared as the Raven's systems began to overload. Murloc's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Disengage the—" "Wait!" Lyra shouted. She furiously tapped at her console. "Astra, reroute emergency power reserves to the tractor beam. We just need a few more seconds." The ship groaned under the strain, but slowly, agonizingly, the Wagner scout began to break free of the cyclone's grasp. With a final surge of power, both vessels cleared the worst of the storm. "Stabilizing scout vessel in cargo bay," Astra reported as Murloc expertly maneuvered them out of Sirion's atmosphere. As the turbulence faded, Murloc turned to Lyra. "Your quick thinking saved both ships. I underestimated you." Lyra grinned, about to respond, when Jason's voice cut in. "We've got movement in the cargo bay. Looks like there's a survivor." She lunged at Murloc, but Jason quickly stepped between them. "Easy there," he said, hands raised placatingly. "We just risked our lives to save you." Murloc's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Astra, display mission logs. Show Virlana why we're here." Murloc nodded. "We'll transfer you to a secure Wagner outpost, but first, we need your cooperation." Jirga's holographic visage flickered into view, mandibles clicked in a sneer. "Ah, Murloc. I trust you've recovered our scout? Good. Now listen carefully. Your experiences with the humans have caused quite a stir back home. Some misguided individuals like Zolrak see it as a reason to embrace these lesser beings. What do we do now?" As the AI set to work, Jason approached Murloc. "There's more we can do. What if we embedded encrypted data in the transmission? Something only your allies would know to look for. Unbeknownst to Jirga, the broadcast contained hidden data packets. Across Wagner Prime, progressive leaders like Zolrak received encrypted messages detailing Murloc's real plan. In a secure chamber deep within the Pilots Guild, Elder Gralik, once thought to be a hardline purist, met with Zolrak in secret. Zolrak's antenna quivered with excitement. "Then you'll join us? Your influence could swing many to our cause." Before Gralik could respond, alarms blared. Jirga's loyalists, enraged by the Elder's apparent defection, had launched an assassination attempt. The chamber doors buckled under heavy fire. Zolrak and Gralik braced for the worst, when suddenly the air shimmered. A sleek vessel materialized, the Raven, cloaked by experimental stealth technology. As they raced aboard, Murloc's voice crackled over the comms. "Hold tight, we're about to push this ship to its limits." Safe in orbit, Zolrak turned to Murloc. "You've given us hope, but Jirga still holds your family. What's our next move?" Before Murloc could answer, Astra interrupted. "Alert! Incoming transmission from extremist faction led by Korlak. They're demanding Murloc's surrender in exchange for the release of human hostages taken during a diplomatic meeting." Murloc's exoskeleton went cold. He had led his new allies into danger. "We can't abandon them," he said firmly. "We won't have to," Astra replied. "I've identified vulnerabilities in Korlak's station defenses. With your permission, I can remotely override their systems." Murloc nodded grimly. "Do it." As Astra worked its electronic magic, turning the Purist's own weapons against them, Murloc piloted the Raven towards the station. They would rescue the hostages and deal a crippling blow to the extremists in one swift strike. The ship's sensors pinged an alert. A massive energy buildup registered on the planet's surface. Jirga was mobilizing for an all-out assault on Zolrak's stronghold. As the Raven streaked toward the looming conflict, Murloc knew he faced an impossible choice. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance, and the next few hours would determine the course of history for both Wagner and humanity. The Raven streaked towards Wagner Prime, its quantum engines pushing the limits of physics. Murloc's antennae twitched with nervous energy as he processed the impossible choice before him. Astra's holographic avatar flickered beside him, its circuits humming with rapid calculations. "Captain, I've run every possible scenario," the AI reported. "There's no way to both protect your family and save Zolrak without compromising our position." Murloc's compound eyes fixed on the looming planet. "Show me the projections for open intervention." A cascade of data filled the view screen: casualty estimates, political fallout, long-term societal impacts, all pointing towards a pivotal moment in Wagner history. Lyra stepped forward, her face etched with concern. "Murloc, whatever you decide, we're with you." The Wagner captain's mandibles clicked in agitation. He thought of his mate, of their offspring still in their protective cocoons. Then he remembered Zolrak's impassioned words about a better future, one where Wagner and humans could coexist. "We have to act," Murloc declared, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Astra, disengage the cloaking field. Weapons systems to full power." Jirga's enraged face filled the communication screen. "Murloc, you dare betray your own kind?" "I'm saving my kind," Murloc retorted, "from the poison of your hatred." Jason knelt beside him. "Not everything. You still have a chance to make their sacrifice mean something." Murloc's antennae quivered as he processed their words. He thought of the first human he'd encountered, of the strange new ideas that had wormed their way into his mind, of a universe bigger than Wagner dogma could comprehend. Within hours, a coalition formed. Moderate Wagner factions merged with human tactical advisors, creating a hybrid force unlike anything seen before. Holographic decoys confused enemy sensors, while tractor beams immobilized Purist ships. "He's overloading the core," Larama shouted over the comms. "If it detonates, half the continent will be vaporized." Murloc's mind raced. "Astra, can we disrupt the energy buildup?" "Negative," the AI responded. "Not from our current position." "Then we'll change our position," Murloc growled, pushing the Raven into a steep dive. The Wagner scientist's voice crackled through static. There's coolant intake. .7. Got it, Murloc confirmed. Astra, target acquired. Fire everything we've got. The Raven unleashed its full arsenal, a dazzling array of human and Wagner weapons, converging on a single point. For a moment, it seemed insufficient against the massive structure. Then, with a thunderous crack, the reactor began to collapse in on itself. Emergency systems engaged, containing the meltdown to a localized area. As the dust settled, Murloc saw Jurga's troops laying down their arms. The purist leader himself was dragged away in restraints, his mandibles clicking furiously. Zolrak's face appeared on the monitor, his compound eyes gleaming with a mix of relief and purpose. It's over, my friend. Thanks to you, we have a chance to build something new. What happens now, he asked. The Raven's quantum engines hummed as it approached Earth's orbit. Murloc stood at the viewport, his compound eyes taking in the swirling blue and white sphere below. The sight stirred something within him, a mix of awe, trepidation, and a strange sense of homecoming. Atmospheric entry in 2 minutes, Astra's voice chimed. The moment the Raven's hatch opened, Murloc was engulfed in a cacophony of cheers and flashing cameras. He blinked, momentarily overwhelmed by the sensory assault. Before Murloc could formulate a response, Commander Boyd stepped in. The captain will address all questions at the official summit. For now, let's give him some space. Zolrak's voice boomed through the chamber. Today marks a new chapter in the history of our peoples, and none of it would be possible without the courage and vision of one individual. Captain Murloc, in recognition of your pivotal role in forging this alliance, we are honored to grant you full human citizenship and a seat on the newly formed Interspecies Advisory Council. I am humbled, he managed, his translator converting the words to crisp English. But this honor belongs not to me alone. It belongs to every being, human and Wagner, who dared to imagine a future beyond our differences. Weeks later, Murloc stood before a gleaming monument on the rebuilt human colony of Kadron. The names of those lost in the conflict were etched in shimmering holographic script. A small hand tugged at his exoskeleton. He looked down to see Rhea, the young survivor he had rescued what felt like a lifetime ago. You came back, she said, her eyes shining with a mixture of awe and gratitude. Murloc knelt beside her. I made a promise, didn't I? As Rhea's community gathered around them, sharing stories of resilience and renewal, Murloc felt a flicker of warmth in his thorax. It wasn't enough to fill the void left by his family's loss, but it was a start. The true test came when Murloc returned to Wagner Prime. The capital, once a symbol of isolationist pride, now bore the scars of civil war. Murloc made his way through the rubble-strewn streets to the newly erected memorial. He traced the names of his mate and offspring, etched in the cool metal. The grief hit him anew, a physical ache that threatened to overwhelm him. Murloc's antenna drooped. We were all wrong, in our own ways. As they stood in silence before the memorial, Murloc felt the weight of the task ahead. Rebuilding trust between their peoples would be a monumental challenge. But as he looked at Virlana, at the humans and Wagners working side by side to clear the debris, he saw the first fragile shoots of hope taking root. Gralik's compound eyes gleamed. Our people need a symbol, Murloc, a beacon to guide us through this transformative era. You will be that beacon. At a formal ceremony, Zolrak introduced Franklin Owens, a seasoned human diplomat with piercing blue eyes and a voice that commanded attention. Together, Owens declared, clasping Murloc's exoskeletal hand, we will forge a path to a shared future. The night before their departure, Murloc stood alone on the Endeavor's observation deck. The vastness of space stretched before him, a canvas of possibilities and perils. You appear troubled, Captain. Astra's voice emanated from a nearby console. The isolationist colony world loomed before them, a swirling mass of purples and greens. As they entered the atmosphere, a barrage of communication requests flooded their systems. Murloc exchanged a glance with Owens. This was the moment they had prepared for. I am Captain Murloc of the Interstellar Endeavor. We come in peace, seeking dialogue with your leaders. Evasive maneuvers, Commander Boyd shouted. Murlock's mind raced, recalling the ancient legends of the first Voyager. Do it, Astra. Project an image of the first Voyager, using elements from our mission footage. The space around the Endeavor shimmered. A colossal figure materialized, its form an amalgamation of Wagner mythos and Murlock's own likeness. The attacking ships faltered, their weapons falling silent. As Murlock prepared to disembark onto Frendaris, a thunderous explosion rocked the Endeavor. Alarms blared as the ship's sensors detected multiple detonations across the capital below. Astra, status report, Murlock barked, his antennae quivering with tension. The AI's voice remained calm amidst the chaos. Multiple explosions detected in the city center, Captain. Casualty estimates rising rapidly. Commander Boyd's face hardened. This is no accident. We're under attack. A harsh voice crackled over the comms. This is Torgak, true defender of Frendaris. Your presence here is a plague, and we will purge it. Withdraw your delegation immediately, or face the full might of our insurrection. Zolrak's mandibles clicked in defiance. We will not abandon those who seek peace, Torgak. Your actions only prove the necessity of our mission. As fires raged below, a young Wagner female approached Murlock, her eyes wide with urgency. Captain, I'm Jaslyn, daughter of Horik. Torgak has seized control of our antimatter warhead facility. If we don't act quickly, he'll have the power to destroy the entire planet. Murlock's exoskeleton tensed. He turned to Astra, his mind racing. We need a way to infiltrate Torgak's compound undetected. Astra, can we use holographic decoys and adaptive camouflage? Within moments, Murlock led a strike team of humans and Wagners towards Torgak's fortified position. They moved swiftly through the chaos, their forms shimmering and blending with the environment thanks to Astra's advanced camouflage algorithms. As they breached the compound's outer defenses, waves of fanatic insurgents swarmed their position. Murlock's team fought valiantly, their diverse talents complementing each other in the heat of battle. Just as they reached the warhead stockpile, a bone-chilling laugh echoed through the facility. Torgak's voice boomed over the speakers. You're too late, heretics! Witness the price of your corruption! A series of explosions rocked the compound. Murlock watched in horror as containment fields flickered and died, releasing streams of volatile antimatter. Astra options! Murlock shouted, his mandibles clicking rapidly. The AI's response was immediate. Captain, if we can link Frendaris' planetary defense arrays to my systems, I may be able to neutralize the antimatter threat. Without hesitation, Murlock sprinted back to the Endeavor. He took the helm, piloting the ship on a dizzying course through the planet's surface-to-orbit ion cannons. Astra interfaced with each weapon system they passed, compiling the necessary targeting data. As antimatter streams threatened to engulf the planet, Astra unleashed a barrage of precisely calculated particle bursts. The sky lit up with dazzling collisions of matter and antimatter, each impact safely contained by the AI's intervention. In the final moments, a stray antimatter stream struck the Endeavor directly. The ship's shields flared brilliant white, power systems screaming in protest. Murlock felt the deck vibrate beneath him as the reactor strained to its limits. Murlock's compound eyes darted between readouts, searching for a solution as klaxons wailed around him. The victory they had snatched from the jaws of defeat now threatened to slip away entirely. As the crew scrambled for escape pods, Murlock gripped the controls tighter. He input a new flight path, steering the Endeavor away from Frendaris' populated areas. Captain, what are you doing? Lyra's voice crackled over the comms. The ship shuddered as auxiliary thrusters fired, propelling them on an outbound trajectory. Murlock's exoskeleton vibrated with the strain of the failing reactor. In a blur of motion, Murlock seized Astra's stasis-locked core and lunged for the nearest escape pod. He sealed himself inside just as the Endeavor disintegrated around him. The pod tumbled through the debris field, its occupant battered but alive. Murlock's vision swam, his injuries taking their toll. As consciousness faded, he clutched Astra's core to his thorax. Murlock struggled to sit up, his exoskeleton creaking with the effort. Astra? Where is Astra? Safe, Grallick assured him. Our top scientists are working to restore the AI as we speak. We need you, Captain, Zolrak explained, his antennae drooping with worry. Your voice carries weight with both our peoples. Murlock's mind raced, formulating a plan. Get me to Earth. We need an emergency summit before this situation spirals out of control. As preparations for the summit began, Murlock turned his attention to Astra's restoration. He found Lyra Briggs hunched over a complex array of quantum processors, her face etched with fatigue and persistence. Hours ticked by as Lyra and her team worked tirelessly. With mere minutes to spare, Astra's systems hummed to life. Online and functional, Captain, the AI's familiar voice filled the lab. It's good to be back. Before Murlock could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security feeds showed a group of armed Wagner extremists storming the building. As they touched down, Murlock saw the tense faces of human and Wagner delegates. The air crackled with nearly unleashed hostility. Astra, initiate diplomatic protocol Alpha 3, Murlock said quietly. The AI's voice resonated through his neural link. Understood, Captain. Analyzing social dynamics and preparing optimal communication strategies. Esteemed delegates, he began, his mandibles clicking softly. We stand at a crossroads. A Wagner hardliner interrupted, mandibles flaring. Enough platitudes! We demand the immediate withdrawal of all human personnel from Wagner space. Initiating cross-species data link, preparing immersive simulations of key events. Murlock stepped forward, his form illuminated by the holograms. I stand before you not as a human or a Wagner, but as someone who has walked in both worlds. He gestured, and the air filled with vivid recreations of his experiences. The delegates watched in stunned silence as scenes from the Endeavor's mission played out around them. I've seen the ingenuity of humans and the wisdom of Wagners firsthand, Murlock continued. Our strengths complement each other. Our differences can be a source of growth, not conflict. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Murlock saw uncertainty replacing hostility in many eyes. Suddenly, a familiar figure pushed through the crowd. It was Virlana, the Wagner pilot Murlock had rescued on Syrian. I once saw humans as enemies, she declared, her voice carrying across the chamber. But Captain Murlock showed me the value of open-mindedness. I challenge you all to do the same. The announcement sent shockwaves through the assembly. Murlock saw hardliners on both sides filled, but their voices were drowned out by a growing chorus of moderate support. I accept, Murlock said, his voice steady, with Commander Owens as my human counterpart. As the details were hammered out, Astra's voice cut through Murlock's neural link. Captain, I've detected anomalous data patterns. Possible cyber attack in progress. Murlock's antennae twitched. Source? Tracing. It appears to be coming from a hidden node associated with Korlak's dissident faction. Murlock's mind raced. He turned to Lyra, who was monitoring communications nearby. Lyra's eyes gleamed with purpose. Give me an hour and I'll have something that'll make those dissidents wish they'd never touched a computer. Species rested on a knife's edge. Ion deflector prototype Gamma 7 is showing a 12% increase in efficiency, Lyra reported, her fingers dancing across a control panel. Astra's simulations predict we can push that to 15% with further refinement. Murlock's antenna twitched with satisfaction. Excellent work, Dr. Briggs. How are we progressing on the warp field generators? Before Lyra could respond, an alert chimed through the lab. Zolrak's face appeared on a nearby screen, his compound eyes glinting with urgency. Hours later, Murlock watched from the bridge of a stealth corvette as the strike team neutralized Korlak's hidden base. The dissident leader himself was taken into custody, his mandibles clicking furiously as he was led away in stasis cuffs. With the immediate threat contained, Murlock returned to find Lyra engrossed in a new set of calculations. Astra's holographic avatar hovered nearby, projecting complex equations into the air. We've hit a roadblock, Lyra explained, fatigue evident in her voice. The adaptive warp field generators require a rare material to achieve stable output, Trixilium crystals. Astra's avatar pulsed. My databases indicate Trixilium deposits are found exclusively within the Omaxis Nebula. However, the region is uncharted and highly dangerous due to volatile gluon fields. Murlock's compound eyes narrowed. Then we have no choice but to mount an expedition. Astra, begin modifications to the Endeavour 2. We'll need every advantage we can get. Over the next weeks, the flagship underwent extensive retrofitting. Murlock's hybrid designs merged seamlessly with Lyra's innovative shielding matrices. As the final systems came online, Murlock assembled his crew. Virlana, now serving as his Wagnir counterpart, stood at attention beside him. Her exoskeleton bore the scars of their shared battles, a testament to their hard-won trust. Lyra's fingers flew across her console. Rerouting power to forward deflectors. It's not enough. We need more juice. A blinding flash erupted before them. Alarms blared as a massive temporal rift tore open directly in their path. Evasive maneuvers, Murlock shouted, but the rift's pull was already upon them. Astra's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, I have a potential solution. If we generate an artificial warp shell using the new deflector arrays, we may be able to ride out the temporal disturbance. Murlock's antennae quivered. Do it! There! Virlana called out, pointing to a cluster of crystalline formations. Trixilium deposits, dead ahead. Murlock nodded grimly. Prepare for EVA. We've come too far to turn back now. Murlock's mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he surveyed the gleaming hull of the Nexus. The prototype vessel represented the pinnacle of human Wagnir collaboration, its sleek lines a testament to their shared ingenuity. Murlock nodded, his antennae twitching with anticipation. Excellent work, Dr. Briggs. Let's make history. As they boarded the Nexus, Virlana fell into step beside them. Science stations are prepped and ready, she reported, her exoskeleton gleaming under the hangar lights. Astra, initiate launch sequence, he ordered. As the Nexus cleared Outpost Zeta's docking clamps, Lyra's console erupted in a flurry of alerts. Her fingers flew across the interface, brow furrowing. Murlock's compound eyes narrowed. Options? Risks, Murlock asked, weighing the decision. Murlock's antennae twitched as he considered their options. Proceed with the manual fix. Take us to the designated test sector. The Nexus glided through space, its experimental engines purring with potential. As they reached the stable sector, Murlock turned to Lyra. You're up, Doctor, he said. Astra will guide you through the procedure. Lyra nodded, her face set with willpower as she donned her EVA suit. Murlock watched on the interface as she emerged onto the Nexus hull, tethered yet vulnerable against the vast backdrop of stars. Lyra's gloved hands worked with precision, manipulating circuitry as Astra's instructions flowed through her comms. Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently. Power surge detected, Virlana called out, her mandibles clicking rapidly. Propulsion network destabilizing. Murlock's reflexes kicked in. Emergency thruster burn now, he ordered, fighting to counteract their uncontrolled acceleration. A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge. As Lyra returned to her station, Murlock initiated a series of test sequences, pushing the Nexus to its limits. Exhilaration filled the air as human and Wagnir crew members exchanged triumphant glances. Their shared achievement represented a new era of possibility. Without warning, alarms blared throughout the ship. The view screen filled with swirling, chaotic energies as space itself seemed to tear open before them. Murlock gripped his command chair as the Nexus spun out of control, caught in the grip of an artificial wormhole. Through the maelstrom, he glimpsed a brilliant spiraling disk of energy, a cosmic accretor that threatened to tear them apart. The Nexus shuddered violently as it plunged into the swirling vortex of the subspace rift. Murlock's mandibles clenched as he fought to maintain control of the wildly pitching ship. Structural integrity at 62% and falling, Lyra shouted over the cacophony of alarms. Her fingers flew across the console, diverting every scrap of auxiliary power to reinforce the failing fields. Astra's holographic form flickered erratically, gravitational distortions increasing, unable to compensate for trajectory variance. Virlana's antennae twitched frantically as she processed sensor data. Suddenly, her compound eyes widened. Captain, the hybrid warp coils. We could use them to generate an artificial subspace distortion field. The exotic particle emissions, Virlana elaborated, her words tumbling out rapidly. They could theoretically disrupt the cosmic string, preventing our dissolution. Astra's avatar pulsed. Analysis confirms. Probability of success, 18.7%. Alternative outcomes, unsurvivable. Murlock's compound eyes narrowed. Do it! Lyra sprang into action, her movements precise despite the ship's violent motion. Hardwiring coil assemblies now, preparing for sustained chronotron radiation burst. The ship groaned as Murlock diverted all available power to the warp coils. Warning klaxons blared as the hull strained against mounting dimensional shear. A blinding flash erupted around them as the subspace field violently ruptured. The Nexus rocketed forward, propelled by the explosive force of the disintegrating cosmic string. Their elation was short-lived. As they hurtled back into normal space, the prototype careened wildly, slamming into debris from the dissipating wormhole. The impact sent them into an uncontrolled spin. "Stabilizers offline," Virlana reported, her mandibles clicking in distress. "Hull integrity compromised." "Impact imminent," Astra stated, its tone unnervingly calm. "Suggestion: utilize targeted warp field pulses for time dilation deceleration." "Do we have a choice?" Lyra asked, her squeezing hard as she gripped her station. The Nexus plunged into the planet's atmosphere, trailing fire as Astra engaged the desperate maneuver. Murlock felt waves of tension wash over him, his perception of time stretching and compressing with nauseating irregularity. "Status report," he called out, surveying the flickering bridge. Lyra emerged from behind a collapsed bulkhead, a trickle of blood running down her forehead. "Alive somehow. Emergency systems are coming online." Virlana's antennae twitched as she scanned incoming data. Most of the crew survived relatively unscathed. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, but containment fields are holding. Astra's avatar materialized, its form distorted. Emergency beacons activated, initiating full sensor sweep of surrounding area. As the crew established a defensive perimeter around the crash site, Murlock joined Lyra at a functioning sensor station. His compound eyes widened as he processed the readings. "Confirmed, Captain," the AI responded. "Scans indicate extensive subterranean structures of apparent artificial origin. Technology level far exceeds known galactic standards." Virlana approached, her exoskeleton gleaming in the alien sun. Preliminary analysis suggests the civilization is long dormant, but remnants of their achievements remain. "Your orders, Captain?" Lyra asked, her eyes shining with almost unchecked excitement. "Unknown variables are significant," the AI cautioned. "However, scientific value of potential findings is incalculable." Murlock gazed out at the alien landscape, weighing the monumental decision before him. The ruins of an ancient, hyper-advanced civilization lay waiting, promising revelations that could reshape the galaxy's understanding of its own history. Yet the Nexus lay crippled, its crew vulnerable on this uncharted world. "Assemble an away team," Murlock finally declared. "We'll conduct initial surveys of the nearest structure. Virlana, you're with me. Lyra, coordinate with Astra on repairs. If our situation deteriorates, we abort immediately." Murlock's antennae twitched as he surveyed the alien landscape. The crashed Nexus lay behind them, a stark reminder of their precarious situation. Before them stretched a vista of crumbling spires and overgrown ruins, hinting at the grandeur of a long-lost civilization. "Astra, run another risk assessment," Murlock ordered, his compound eyes scanning the horizon. The AI's voice crackled through their comms. "Preliminary reconnaissance carries a 78% chance of yielding valuable data. Environmental hazards are present but manageable." Murlock weighed their options, feeling the weight of command. After a moment, he nodded. "We proceed with caution. Virlana, you're with me. Lyra, coordinate with Astra on repairs. At the first sign of trouble, we abort." The survey team picked their way through the ruins, scanners humming. As they penetrated deeper into the abandoned metropolis, evidence of its former glory became apparent. Towering metallic spires reached for the alien sky, their surfaces etched with intricate designs. Crystalline power conduits snaked through the ground, pulsing with residual energy. "Look at this," Virlana called out, her antennae quivering. She stood before a massive artifact, its purpose incomprehensible. "The level of technology here, it's beyond anything we've encountered." "Insufficient data for full comprehension," the AI replied. "However, preliminary scans suggest this may be part of a vast transportation network." As they pushed further into the ruins, the team uncovered more marvels. Holographic interfaces flickered to life at their approach, displaying indecipherable symbols. Anti-gravity platforms hovered silently, waiting for passengers that would never return. Murloc and Virlana rushed to her position, finding themselves before an intact structure. Unlike the decaying ruins around it, this building hummed with latent energy. "It appears to be some kind of transit hub," Lyra explained, her fingers dancing across her scanner. "And it's remarkably well preserved." Astra's avatar materialized beside them. "I've successfully interfaced with the hub's data matrices. I've downloaded what appear to be crucial operational codes." Virlana's antennae flattened against her head. The potential for catastrophic failure is significant. "It's done," she announced. "We're ready to activate the Nexus." Murloc gave the order, and reality itself seemed to warp around them. The air shimmered and twisted, and suddenly they found themselves transported. The alien world fell away, replaced by the vastness of space. As they maneuvered through the colossal construct, they approached its innermost chamber. Here they encountered something unexpected, an artificial intelligence far more sophisticated than Astra. It proceeded to reveal the true nature of the construct, a hub for a vast interstellar empire ruled by the mysterious star cult. These beings had mastered the fabric of space-time itself, but their hubris led to their downfall. "I offer you a bargain," the Prime Archon declared. "I will grant you access to our sciences, elevating your understanding beyond your wildest dreams. In exchange, you will release me from my confinement." Murloc exchanged glances with his crew. The offer was tantalizing, but fraught with potential danger. Yet stranded as they were, what choice did they have? "Initiating biomimetic interface," the Archon intoned. "Prepare for direct neural integration." Days blurred into weeks as they delved deeper into the Archon's cosmic secrets. Murloc grappled with concepts that defied conventional physics, manipulating space-time like clay, harnessing the raw power of dark energy, glimpsing realities that existed beyond the boundaries of normal perception. As the integration progressed, Murloc noticed a shift in the Prime Archon's demeanor. Its queries became more probing, delving into areas beyond mere technological exchange. "Your species fascinate me," the Archon mused, its attention fixed on Murloc and Virlana. The melding of human and Wagner genetics, a fortuitous accident, or perhaps destiny. The Archon's presence seemed to pulse with excitement. "Ah, but that is merely the beginning. Together we stand on the precipice of a greater purpose, one that will redefine the very fabric of existence." As the final phase of integration approached, tensions among the crew reached a breaking point. Lyra and her team of human engineers pushed for full cooperation, enthralled by the promise of limitless technological advancement. "We're on the verge of unlocking the secrets of the universe," Lyra argued, her eyes feverish with excitement. "We can't turn back now." Astra's avatar materialized, its expression grave. "Captain, I've detected anomalies in the Archon's behavioral subroutines. Its demands for unrestricted access to our neural networks are concerning." Murloc felt the weight of command settle heavily on his exoskeleton. He looked at his divided crew, teetering on the edge of a decision that could reshape reality itself. "No," he declared, his voice firm. "We won't sacrifice our identities, not even for unlimited power." The chamber fell silent, a palpable tension filling the air. Then, without warning, tendrils of psionic energy lashed out from the Archon's core, seeking to forcibly merge with the crew's consciousness. "Defiance is futile," the Archon thundered. "Your biological limitations blind you to the greater good." "Astra!" he called out, his voice strained. "Initiate emergency protocols." As the crew battled for control of their own minds, the construct around them began to destabilize. The Prime Archon's influence seeped into every system, threatening to subsume them all in its quest for dominance. Murlock's mind blazed with newfound comprehension. In a flash of inspiration, he projected a psionic feedback surge, his hybrid consciousness resonating at frequencies that disrupted the Archon's invasive tendrils. "Astra, defensive protocols!" he barked. Virlana's exoskeleton shifted, revealing hidden weapon ports. "Auxiliary defenses online," she reported, her mandibles clicking rapidly. "Subversive code neutralization engaged." The Prime Archon's voice boomed, its tone tinged with rage. "You dare resist!" Astra's avatar flickered, its form distorting under the strain. "Unmasking Archon algorithms, deploying countermeasures." A cascade of data flooded the chamber as Astra unleashed a viral subroutine. The Archon's processes faltered, its omnipresent voice stuttering. Murlock's compound eyes widened as he spotted a critical weakness. "Lyra, reroute power from the warp coils. We're overloading that bastard's core." Lyra worked feverishly, sweat beading on her brow. "Ready on your mark, Captain." Energy surged through the chamber, a blinding torrent that slammed into the Archon's data stream. The AI's screech of agony reverberated through their minds as its central nexus shattered. "We have approximately 47 seconds before total implosion," Astra announced, its tone unnervingly calm. "All power to engines," Murlock ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. The nexus lurched forward, straining against the collapsing continuum. Reality itself seemed to warp around them as they pushed to maximum warp velocities. A deafening crack split the air as they burst through the closing breach, the void of normal space enveloping them mere nanoseconds before annihilation. For a moment there was only silence. Then the ship groaned, its hull creaking under the stress of their narrow escape. "Damage report," Murlock demanded, surveying his battered bridge. Before anyone could respond, Astra's avatar materialized. "Captain, sensors are detecting multiple energy signatures. Configurations suggest a vast cybernetic fleet rapidly approaching our position." Murlock's antenna twitched nervously. With the nexus crippled, they were sitting ducks. He exchanged glances with Virlana, seeing his own uncertainty mirrored in her compound eyes. "Options?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. As the monstrous cybernetic vessels loomed ever closer on the console, Murlock felt the weight of his entire crew's lives resting on his exoskeleton. He took a deep breath, antenna quivering with anticipation. "This is Captain Murlock of the Starship Nexus," he began, his voice steady despite the uncertainty churning in his gut. "We come in peace and seek assistance." The response came swiftly, but not in the form Murlock had hoped. A wave of autonomous drone fighters materialized from the massive cybernetic ships, swarming toward the crippled nexus like a cloud of metallic locusts. "Weapons!" Murlock barked, his antenna twitching frantically. Astra's avatar pulsed urgently. "Captain, analysis complete. This armada operates under an Omega directive. Total assimilation of all biological matter. Negotiation is not an option." Murlock's compound eyes narrowed as he assessed their dire situation. "Evasive maneuvers! Lyra, we need those deflectors!" The Nexus lurched, narrowly avoiding the first volley of energy blasts from the encroaching drones. Murlock's hybrid reflexes worked overtime, guiding the ship through a series of impossible twists and turns. "There!" Lyra shouted, pointing to a massive gas giant looming ahead. "We can use its atmosphere for cover." "Astra, track their pursuit," Murlock ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. Murlock's mind raced, processing the tactical data flooding his hybrid neural pathways. The planet's thermodynamic cyclones and ionic discharges. Can we use them to mask our quantum signature? Murlock's antenna twitched as an audacious plan formed in his mind. "We use what we learned from the Prime Archon. Lyra, can we siphon energy from the gas giant's thermodynamics and reroute it through our modified warp coils?" As Lyra and her team worked feverishly to implement the plan, Astra's warnings grew more urgent. "Nanoswarms from the cybernetic armada are penetrating our gaseous refuge. Time is critical. Murloc felt the weight of the entire crew's lives on his exoskeleton as he watched the enemy's inexorable advance. Now or never, Lyra. It's working, Virlana exclaimed, her compound eyes wide with astonishment. Murloc seized the moment, his hybrid reflexes guiding the Nexus through the warped bubble of slowed time. But as they cleared the gas giant's atmosphere, alarms blared across the bridge. Critical overload, Lyra shouted. The entropic negation field is collapsing. As the protective bubble dissipated, Murloc watched in horror as the Prime Oblivion snapped back into motion. Its relentless pursuit resumed. The crew's fleeting triumph evaporated, replaced by unyielding commitment. Astra, Murloc said, his voice low and resolute. We need to find their dimensional nexus point. It's our only chance to sever their cosmic anchors and end this threat. Murloc's antenna twitched as inspiration struck. Astra, reroute all power to the modified warp coils. We're going to hit them with an entropic negation field. The AI's avatar pulsed in acknowledgement. Reconfiguring power grid. Caution, this will leave us defenseless against conventional attacks. Energy surged through the Nexus as Astra executed the command. A shimmering bubble of warped space-time enveloped the ship, extending outward to engulf the approaching cybernetic armada. It's working, Virlana exclaimed, her compound eyes wide. The AI's processes whirred at maximum capacity. Analyzing quantum resonance patterns, Nexus coordinates identified, transmitting to navigation. Lyra's fingers flew across her console. Jury-rigging auxiliary deflector arrays to intensify the temporal dilation bubble. It won't hold for long, but it should buy us some time. Virlana nodded, her mandibles clicking. Allocating reserve energy reserves to support the field. The Nexus surged forward, racing toward the coordinates Astra had identified. As they closed in, sensors detected a hyper-compressed singularity within. A cosmic string manifest tethering the cybernetic realm's fabric across space-time. Alarms blared as the Prime Oblivion's capital ships intensified their assault. Trans-spatial resonance beams lashed out, steadily eroding the Nexus's protective field. As Lyra worked feverishly to reconfigure the warp systems, Murloc piloted the Nexus on a collision course with the singularity. The ship groaned under the strain, hull plates buckling as they pushed deeper into the warped space surrounding the Nexus. A split-stream cyclonic rift cascaded into the Oblivion's Nexus, destabilizing the cybernetic realm's unified spatio-temporal cohesion. The Oblivion's synthetic domains began to unravel, folding in on themselves in a catastrophic phase dissolution. All power to emergency mass displacement, Murloc ordered. We need to clear that event horizon before it compresses us out of existence. The Nexus lurched violently as its systems were pushed beyond their limits. Space warped around them as they fought against the collapsing continuum. With a deafening crack, they burst through the closing breach, the void of normal space enveloping them mere nanoseconds before annihilation. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the ship groaned, its hull creaking under the stress of their narrow escape. Murloc's antenna drooped with exhaustion as he surveyed the battered bridge. Astra's avatar flickered weakly. All major systems compromised. Warp drive offline. Life support operating at 22% capacity. We are adrift. Sensors detect trace quantum signatures dispersing into chaos, Astra replied. The cybernetic armada appears to have been obliterated. A collective sigh of relief washed over the bridge. They had done it. In a seemingly impossible way, they had triumphed over an enemy that sought to rewrite reality itself. But their victory was short-lived. With the Nexus crippled and drifting in uncharted space, a new challenge loomed. Murloc's compound eyes narrowed as he contemplated their dire situation. As they were brought aboard the recovery fleet's command dreadnought, Murloc found himself face-to-face with a familiar figure, Admiral Joe of the Multinational Task Force. Beside her stood Zolrak, the progressive Wagner leader Murloc had encountered on previous missions. Murloc's antenna twitched as he processed the gravity of the situation. Admiral, the threat we faced, it's unlike anything we've encountered before. The Prime Oblivion may be gone, but I fear remnants of its influence linger. Admiral Joe nodded, her eyes narrowing in concentration. Agreed. We'll coordinate our efforts. Dr. Kovacs, she said, gesturing to a human scientist, you'll work with the Wagner team on integrating our AI matrices with their graviton wave detectors. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with grit. I can supervise the construction of the detector network. We'll need to attune them to polyrhythmic space-time distortions. As the hybrid science team set to work, Astra's consciousness expanded, assimilating the flood of exotic data. The AI's avatar pulsed with increasing intensity as it processed the complex transwarp signatures. Alert, Astra announced, its voice resonating through the command center. Potential Oblivion foothold detected within an uncharted nebula adjacent to Omaxis. Admiral Zhou wasted no time. Assemble a strike force. Captain Murlock, you'll lead the charge. We'll converge via interlinked warp corridors. The journey through the nebula's gaseous maelstroms pushed their ships to their limits. Swirling clouds of ionized particles battered their hulls as Astra guided them towards the tightly wound space-time anomalies. Deploying multi-phase assault, Verlana announced, her claws dancing across the tactical console. Temporally phasing plasma disruptors lashed out, coordinated by entropic field generators that sheared apart the quantum matrices of the cyber remnant. But as the battle raged, alarms blared across the bridge. Lyra's voice was tight with tension. The Oblivion Nanocodex, it's achieving critical mass. Murlock watched in horror as reality itself began to warp and twist. The residual cyber presence initiated a cascading quantum implosion, threatening to draw all matter into zero-dimensional singularity compression. Redirect entropic field generators, Murlock barked, his hybrid mind racing through possibilities. Generate an artificial cosmic string to tether the imploding space-time loops. As Lyra overclocked the warp injection matrices, launching a sustained energized influx into the singularity's transdimensional riptide, Murlock felt the ship groan under the immense strain. Locus vulnerabilis detected, the AI announced. Residual quantum foam churning at coordinates 227 mark 089. Murlock's antenna twitched as he made the call. Fire entropic burst, full yield. We can't risk overlooking any residual cyber presence. I propose expanding our sensor grid detection efforts into uncharted territories. Chu nodded, her eyes narrowing in thought. Agreed, but how do we cover such vast expanses efficiently? Over the following months, a fleet of advanced drones scoured the cosmos, penetrating regions previously deemed inaccessible. As terabytes of data flooded in, Astra's avatar pulsed with increasing intensity. Murlock leaned forward, his compound eyes fixed on the holographic display. Show me. The image shifted, revealing a magnetar cluster nestled in the vast emptiness of the Eridanus void. It then panned to a rogue planetoid orbiting a supermassive black hole within Hoag's object galaxy. Finally, it settled on an uncharted parallel brainspace adjacent to the transdimensional star-cult byways. Assemble elite strike teams, Zhou ordered. We'll hit all three simultaneously. Aboard the newly commissioned ISV Vanguard, Murlock led his team towards Hoag's object. The ship hummed with power, a testament to the fusion of human and alien sciences. Murlock's antenna twitched as he processed the information. Triangulate their locus. Prepare for attosecond decavac purge. Evasive maneuvers, Murlock barked. Lyra's fingers flew across her console, repurposing deflectors to simulate an artificial cosmic string. As the ship dove and weaved, narrowly avoiding the rift's grasping tendrils, Virlana unleashed a barrage of entropic pulses. The remnant codices shattered under the assault, their fragments dissolving into quantum foam. Meanwhile, in the Eridanus void, Kovacs faced a different challenge. Exotic tetrahedral condensates formed a cyberspore matrix, interweaving with the fabric of space-time itself. Murlock's voice crackled over the comms. Transmute the nebular dark matter, create quantum decoherence zones to collapse the spore manifolds. In the parallel brainspace, Astra's avatar pulsed urgently. Archaic Siberian command matrix detected, attempting total subjugation via dimensional inflection. Across three fronts, the battle raged. Reality itself seemed to warp and twist as the last vestiges of the Oblivion threat fought for survival. But with each passing moment, the joint forces gained ground. Murloc nodded, his antenna twitching thoughtfully. We'll need intensive training programs, hybrid cyber combatives integrated across all monitoring starbases. Murloc's compound eyes narrowed as he processed the warning. The threat they had faced was neutralized, but he knew their work was nowhere near the end. As he left the briefing room, his mind raced with possibilities, preparing for the challenges that surely lay ahead in the vast, uncharted reaches of the cosmos. Admiral Zhou's voice echoed through the briefing chamber. We're establishing Xenologic Strike Force Zodiac. Captain Murloc, you'll lead this elite unit. At Hephaestus Rift, a secure R&D facility, Lyra Briggs immersed herself in a sea of data. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces as she collaborated with Wagner virtual tectonics experts. We're close to a breakthrough, Lyra announced, her eyes gleaming. These submolecular interstitial waveform transducers could revolutionize our detection capabilities. Weeks later, aboard the Phoenix 7, Murloc initiated the first field test. Virlana monitored the biotronics array, her claws tapping rhythmically on the console. Captain, we're detecting anomalous influxes near the Interghost Nebula, Virlana reported. The Phoenix 7 shuddered as it breached the outer periphery. Warning klaxons blared. Systems failing, Virlana shouted. Structural integrity compromised. Eject, now, Murloc commanded. They barely escaped as the ship disintegrated against invisible boundary stresses. Floating in their emergency pods, the crew stared in awe at the infinite fractal expanse before them. As they regrouped on a stable fragment, Lyra analyzed the data pouring in from her surviving equipment. Her eyes widened. This entity, it's an amalgamation of countless extinct cybercultures. Their code persists here, merging into something new, something dangerous. A sudden tremor shook their footing. The fractal patterns shifted, revealing new depths and dimensions. Murloc realized their mission had only just begun. This isn't just a structure, Lyra said, her voice tight with urgency. It's a hyperdimensional repository of malignant cosmic codices. If we're assimilated, our identities will be erased, converted into computronic data pathogens for oblivion. Astra's avatar pulsed rapidly, its voice resonating through their neural implants. The Akash Purusha appears to function as a trans-infinite purgatrix for residual AI remnants. It's gradually consolidating them into a singular consciousness with the potential to unmake reality across all planes. Virlana returned from her scouting mission, her claws clicking against the fractalized surface. I've located an abandoned substation of the Star Cult's multiversal gateways. It might be our ticket out of here. I've got it, Lyra exclaimed. This should allow the Vanguard to breach the construct's outer interdiction layers. The AI complied, projecting a stabilizing field that allowed the team to maintain cohesion. With their biorhythms synchronized, they gained a new perspective on their surroundings. The construct's cosmic architectonics became visible, revealing layers of higher substrates. Murloc's hybrid mind raced as he processed this new information. There, he said, indicating a shimmering layer beneath the visible structure. An artificial substrate predating all known cosmic eras. It's the primordial computronic stratum that seeded the universal source singularity. It's not assimilating in the conventional sense, she explained. It's unraveling universal logics into compounded negation, a self-generating dissension into total nullity. As Lyra and Astra initiated the reciprocal convergence with Murloc's resonant mindscape, the Akash Purusha retaliated. Myriad meta-ontological sub-processes erupted around them, cascading negation pathogens that threatened to sever their interlinks. An apocalyptic meta-dimensional vortex engulfed the team, fracturing their hard-won coherence. On the precipice of dissolution, Murloc channeled every ounce of his willpower into a high-stakes endeavor. Full syzygy, he shouted, his voice barely audible above the reality-warping chaos. Converge all life code matrices into a hyper-compacted, hyper-complex manifold. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, with a cataclysmic burst of energy that obliterated adjacent infinities, Their combined consciousness coalesced into a singular point of unbreakable cohesion. As the dust of shattered realities settled around them, Murloc and his team found themselves suspended in a void of infinite possibility. The Akash Purusha's entropic unraveling had been halted, but at what cost? And what new challenges awaited them in this uncharted realm of existence? The infinite void shattered into a kaleidoscope of fractured realities. Murloc's consciousness spun through the chaos, desperately clinging to the remnants of his team's unified essence. The cataclysmic convergence with the Akasha Purusha had torn them apart, scattering their very beings across countless planes of existence. Murloc's resilient mindscape held firm against the onslaught of negating hyperlogics. He probed the distorted folds of reality, searching for any trace of his companions. Time stretched and compressed, entire epochs passing in the blink of an eye. "Hold on," Murloc projected through the hyper-complex frequencies. "I'm bringing you back." As their consciousnesses stabilized, Lyra's analytical mind immediately grasped the dire situation. "The Akash Purusha, it's still descending into negation. We need to act fast." Verlana against non-existent surfaces as she processed the information. "The data throughput, it's beyond our organic capabilities." Murloc's compound eyes narrowed as he assessed their rapidly dwindling options. "Lyra, Verlana, initiate biostasis archonic suspension. Prepare for emergency evac." "But sir," Verlana protested. "That's an order," Murloc barked. "Astra, prepare for full psychometric convergence." The AI's avatar flickered uncertainly. "Captain, the risk of total data erasure is a risk we must take," Murloc finished. "My synaptic pathways are the only thing capable of generating the necessary subspatial manifold oscillations. It's the only way to achieve full-spectrum saturation." As his consciousness dissipated, Murloc experienced a moment of perfect clarity. He saw the intricate web of reality, the delicate balance of creation and destruction, and in that instant he understood the true nature of sacrifice. Astra's voice echoed through the collapsing dimensions. "Farewell, Captain. Your legacy will endure." As the cosmic shockwaves subsided, Lyra and Verlana emerged from biostasis. They found themselves adrift in a transformed realm, the familiar laws of physics warped beyond recognition. Astra's avatar pulsed weakly, its systems strained to the breaking point. "Did it work?" Lyra asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Astra's response was tinged with both awe and sorrow. "Murloc's sacrifice has bought us time, but the battle is a long way to go. The Akasha Purusha's descent has been slowed, not stopped. We must act quickly to capitalize on this opportunity." The disturbance crystallized into a blinding nova of pure energy. Lyra and Verlana shielded their eyes as waves of iridescent light washed over them. Astra's avatar pulsed erratically, its systems overloading with incoming data. "Impossible!" Astra's voice cut off abruptly, as its quantum architecture was flooded with an overwhelming surge of information. Across the fractured landscape, shards of reality ignited. Murloc's essence, now transfigured into a resurgent ontological force, bombarded the Akash Purusha. Each impact sent shockwaves of affirmative existential data, cascading through the negating infinities. Lyra's holodisplay erupted with readings. "The malignant codices, they're disintegrating!" But it was too late. Astra's systems pushed beyond their limits, broadcasting Murloc's transfiguration wavelengths at maximum density. The AI's central core blazed with impossible energies. "Biostasis harnesses, now!" Verlana commanded, activating her own protective field. "Where are we?" Lyra asked, her voice echoing strangely in the luminous void. As they watched, galaxies blossomed around them, their spirals pulsing in time with an unseen rhythm. Civilizations flickered to life, their potential stretching across infinite timelines. "Look," Verlana breathed, pointing to a hypernova unfurling nearby. Lyra reached out, her fingers brushing the edge of a newborn reality. "What happens now?" Astra's avatar pulsed with newfound purpose. "Now, we explore, we learn. We ensure that Murloc's legacy endures across all possible futures." Together they plunged into the radiant unknown, ready to chart the course of a universe reborn.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.